Patrick Dorgu to Manchester United is officially a done deal, and at 20 years old and incredibly versatile, Dorgu will bring a lot to Manchester United. Previously, we spoke about his physical profile. Today, it is all about his tactical fit under Ruben Amorims in the 3-4-3 formation. Before we get into it, if you could quickly subscribe, that would be amazing, and then we'll get into the breakdown. So first things first, where will Dorgu actually play? He's versatile, which means he could operate in a few different positions, but for me, I think the most likely role is as a left wing back on the left-hand side of the pitch. Now the reason I believe this is because we have no other options. Luke Shaw is literally always injured, Tyrell Malacia has had a lot of injury problems over the past 18 months or so, and in the past few weeks, we've seen that Diogo Dalot and Mazraoui don't really have what it takes to play as a left wing back. So for me, it will be Dorgu in this role, and that's not an issue. He's really familiar with it. See this situation here, the 5-2-3 shape, which you guys will probably recognise by now? Well, actually at left wing back in this moment is Patrick Dorgu playing for Denmark against Switzerland in a recent Nations League game. This proves that Dorgu is used to playing on the left hand side of the defence, and from this game we learned a lot about how Dorgu would operate at Manchester United. So the aim for today is basically going to be to take some of the lessons from that game and look at how Dorgu will work for United in possession. Starting off in the deeper phase, where we know that Manchester United often like to shift to a back four. So Harry Maguire, the middle defender, will actually move into midfield. We will see the two other centre-backs splitting either side of the goalkeeper, and then the two wing-backs moving a little bit deeper. This is something that Dorgu is more than comfortable doing. We can see it if we move over quickly to a moment like this. We can see Dorgu actually now moving into a back four position. So this is a role that he would certainly be comfortable in. In terms of what he would bring to United here, the most important thing is the left-footed profile. United have been crying out for a left-footed defender on the left-hand side of the fence for some time now. We know how important Lisandro Martinez is, for example. His left foot is crucial. We need another player that can also offer something similar, so that when we try and play out from the back down this side, we aren't forced into the pitch where it's crowded, but instead we can go down the outside, access our wingers, and progress the ball via that method. Something else which Dorgu will bring though here is a physical profile which is currently lacking on the left-hand side. You see, at times when you are pressed in these areas, what you need is the ability to go over the opposition's high press. Now, we will often talk about this in regards to going long to a striker, but it can also be used in the air in slightly deeper positions as well. For example, with the goalkeeper moving the ball out towards this new fullback position. You need a player in this moment who is strong in the air, and Dorgu is exactly that, as we can see in his FBref report from the past 365 days. The importance of this aerial ability in the deep phase was actually showcased in the match against Switzerland. You can see that Denmark are under pressure whilst trying to play the ball out from the back. There isn't actually an easy short passing option for them, but that's okay because they have Dorgu on the left hand side, who is incredibly tall but also strong in the air, particularly compared to most wingers who he will be up against. So as this ball comes across to him in the air, Dorgu is able to rise above the opposition, win the header and keep the ball for his side. And this is something that United have used quite recently. Harry Maguire on the ball on this occasion, switching the play out towards Diogo Dalot. Dalot is another defender who is quite good in the air. On this occasion, he was playing on the right-hand side of defence, and it was him winning this header which actually led to the goal for Manchester United as Garnacho raced in behind before eventually pulling the ball back to Bruno Fernandes. This is something that Dorgu could bring to United. And in terms of tactically, that unlocks a lot for us because it means that suddenly we can actually play to both sides of the pitch with the ball lifted over the opposition front press. So Dorgu could be really useful in that way. Another way that Dorgu can be useful is actually when the ball is on the other side of the pitch. For example, Manchester United are building possession down the right hand side, and what we are attempting to do is draw the opposition onto us. You see, if we pass the ball short and patiently in these areas, naturally the opposition will come and high press because this is what so many teams in football look to do these days. So as you're passing the ball about in these areas, you will see the opposition naturally drawing over to this position to try and get pressure on the ball. But this nearly always opens up space on the far side, in this area here, where we can see that United are actually 2 versus 1 in this moment. And particularly if you can draw this extra player higher as well, you will often find yourself with a bit of spare space on the far side. Now what you really need here is a player who, first of all, has a good touch, has a good engine to drive into the space, But again, also being left-footed helps, because if he's right-footed, he would actually come back in here where there's less space, so we want someone who can drive down the outside. And again, Dorgu, being left-footed, being a powerful athlete, is this sort of player. And again, we can see it in this moment here. Denmark with a lot of players on one side of the pitch, drawing a lot of Switzerland players over with them. This means that as the ball is moved across, Patrick Dorgu has all the time and space in the world to move into, bombing down the left-hand side of the pitch. And again, it's his physical profile which really allows him to do this. And again, not once during this moment does he look to turn back. He stays on his left foot, carrying the ball forward down the outside. Look how much territory his team has gained simply because he was willing to go forward and keep going forward. Now, of course, for Dorgu to really be successful at Manchester United, he will also need to contribute when the ball is actually on his side and he's the player under pressure. And to be honest, this is where there will be more questions over him, simply because he's an incredibly raw player. Technically very raw. Again, he's only 20 years old. This is not a complete package. We are signing potential here. So do not expect him to be a world beater in the first 2 seasons. It won't happen. Give him a little bit of time though, 2 or 3 years, and we will see a player really starting to develop, hopefully, into one of the best young wing-backs around, who can offer something on the ball on his side of the pitch, particularly in the 3-4-3 formation. And we're going to look at a clip of this in just a moment. But what we're looking at here is Dorgu's ability to manipulate the ball and also use different passes, rather than always relying on just one pass. Something that we looked at in our last video on Dorgu the other week was Dorgu's ability to pass the ball in different ways, sometimes moving inside the pitch, but also sometimes clipping a ball down the line, down the outside for a winger to run onto. Now this is important because it plays a mental game with the opposition. When Dorgu picks up the ball, the opposition fullback knows that he's got a few different passes in his locker, so what he will often want to do, this defender, is actually just step off a little bit to prevent the space being opened up in behind. But this gives Dorgu room to operate on the ball, and from here Dorgu actually has a really nice pass infield, using his left foot to move the ball into the feet of the striker. Now, of course, at Manchester United, it will be very important for the strikers to do a better job here, actually dropping into these positions to pick the ball up, but this is something that Dorgu could certainly do. In a moment like this, we've got a perfect example, and actually the striker here is Rasmus Højlund, which is actually quite interesting. But Dorgu picks the ball up on the left-hand side, and you can see the movement of those in front of him. The winger initially makes the run into that space that we were talking about, which is going to make this defender here really worried. He's scared of that space in behind him, so he's going to drop a little bit deeper. As this is happening, we can see the striker, Rasmus Højlund, moving into a deeper position in midfield. And Dorgu has the passing range, the passing ability, and also the passing empathy, giving the striker a pass he wants to receive, moving the ball into this position. And this is where you have potential for up, back and through patterns that we've spoken about in the past. So perhaps you could lay this ball off here and then play a long pass out to the other side with the wing back looking to run onto it. This is where Dorgu could be valuable for Manchester United. Another way in which Dorgu could actually be quite effective for United almost immediately is his movement off the ball. It's all well and good using the ball well when it's at your feet, but you need to offer something and disrupt the opposition when you don't have the ball. And that is something that United have been lacking a lot recently. Particularly before Garnacho came back into the team, we saw a lot of United players looking at the ball, standing there, waiting for it. Not enough movement in the final third to move the opposition about. Dorgu doesn't have that problem. Part of that is perhaps because he is raw. He just wants to run. He wants to attack space. And he probably does need some tactical refinement. However, what we do have ourselves here is a player that will run in behind the opposition defence relentlessly, even when he plays left back. He is always looking to make this bombing run in behind the opposition. And again, this is something that we have seen from Manchester United before. We know that Diogo Dalot, over the past couple of seasons, has made this sort of out to in run on a regular basis. Dorgu is another who will be looking to do it. You can see it here, the right-sided defender picks the ball up, and as he plays the long pass over the top, Dorgu is the one racing in on goal, bending his run from out wide left inside the pitch. This is something that United, outside of Dalot, don't really have at the moment. This might make us just a little bit more unpredictable in the final third, because you might have Garnacho, for example, who might spin wide left, like we've seen him doing in the past couple of games, and then Dorgu could attack that space left in behind. That could potentially be something actually really useful for United. The other thing that he will also offer, though, is the box runs when the ball is on the other side of the pitch. So let's say Dalot or perhaps Ahmad has the ball on the right hand side. Dorgu is someone who will look to attack the box, and this is something that United desperately need. So often we are seeing United getting into the final third, and sometimes we only have one player in the box. Sometimes it's not even that. We know that a player like Xerxes, for example, likes to drift away and get on the ball. It leaves us with a lack of direct threat in the final third. Now Dorgu may be signed, primarily as a defender, but he will offer us this run. Is he a massive threat once in the box? Is he a goal scorer? No, but he will offer us something. He will not be a player that is happy just to sit back here and watch the move unfold. He is desperate at times to attack the penalty area, get himself into the final third. So not just in moments like this, sprinting in behind the defence, but also in these moments as well, where the attack is sustained much higher. And you can see, if I move myself out of the way here, Dorgu keen to get into the final third, to get into the box. This is what United need. So should the cross be over here, you've got Dorgu at the back post who can attack the ball. Could he potentially get into this position here to score us happen? Maybe. But what's important for me is just how eager he is. You can see in a moment like this, he's nowhere near the play here. He's a good 10, 15, 20 yards away from the play. He's got some catching up to do, but he is so keen to do it. Making the run towards the final third, getting himself into this position. He wants to get himself in the penalty area, and again, that adds something to United. It makes us more dynamic. Now, those are, of course, a lot of the positives of signing Dorgu. There are also negatives as well. The main one being, again, he's 20 years old. He's raw. Tactically, he needs to develop his understanding. Technically, he needs to work the ball better. And physically, he needs to understand how to use his body. Currently, he doesn't actually do all of those things. But actually, perhaps initially, my biggest weakness or my biggest concern would be on the ball in the final third. His runs off the ball, nice, I like them. But himself, actually in the final third, is he good enough at crossing? The numbers suggest no. The numbers suggest that he isn't a player which crosses with great frequency or that greater accuracy. He's not terrible at crossing, but he's certainly not a specialist. Often when he puts the ball into the box, it will be just a little bit too looped. But this is something that he's just going to have to work on. I said it halfway through the video. We are signing potential here. We're looking for a player in 2 to 3 years to really be something special for United, but not right now. In the first 2 weeks, we're going to see a lot of raw details in his game. In the next 2 months, it will be the same. In 12 months, he will still be a raw player, although hopefully he would have developed by then. Manchester United are not signing the ready-made article here. This is a raw player with a lot of potential to develop and grow. Manchester United fans are going to have to be patient. He does have weaknesses to his game, even defensively, for example. There will be moments 1 versus 1 where he is beaten a little bit too easily. But overall, physically, he drastically raises the floor at Manchester United. And technically, I think he is a very, very competent player who has, yes, a lot to learn, but also a really high ceiling. He's got the platform and the profile here to be a great player someday. So I'm really pleased with this business. The fee is perhaps just a little bit higher than what I would have expected, and this signing is going to take time to really see the best of it. But I think it's a good signing for Manchester United. I think we've got ourselves a really good young player here, a lot of potential, which is exactly what this club is all about. So overall, I'm happy, but I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you make of Dorgu? How well will he settle in the first 6 months? And how long will it take for us to really see the very best of him? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But apart from that, we are finished for today. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.